Welcome to the Night Shift Court podcast. I'm Pidge.
And I'm Mowen.
We are two shift-working fantasy book lovers and love nothing more than leaving reality behind for a bookish adventure.
Join us as we go under the mountain to discuss our favourite fantasy fiction tales and the authors behind them. Come with us to explore the stories, one shift at a time.
Hi, ladies.
Hi! Jingle bells, welcome back to podcast.
Oh, God.
Oh, I'm getting excited.
I do love Christmas.
Oh, I know. Santa spewed in your living room just now. Blech, everywhere.
Santa's done a stress vomit.
Yes.
Like Elaine.
He might have had too much dip, too much of a good thing.
True.
Yes. We would like to dedicate this episode of the Night Shift Court podcast to Yumi's dip.
The only dip.
The only dip. The
exists.
famous deliciousness. Mostly, I might add, mostly gluten-free, mostly even vegan. But you know what's not vegan?
Egg.
Egg mayo. The eggiest mayo that ever was invented.
Yes. And for those that have not participated in any of our podcast recording, between episodes, we eat and we have a spread.
During episodes, let's be honest.
And that usually includes biscuits, cheese and dip.
Absolutely.
And Yumi's is our go-to egg mayo.
Yes.
100%
I would like
favourite
to,
dip.
I'd like to shout out Yumi's marketing / public relations, because recently there was an episode whereby I went to the supermarket and there was no egg mayo, which is our favourite, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in search of many a supermarket.
All over the state, in fact.
All over the state, even in various locations in Launceston, and could not locate said egg mayo dip.
No.
So I wrote to them, and not only did they respond and give me a valid reason for not having egg mayo, which is the great egg shortage of 2024.
The bird flu or something. Was it like
flu.
the birds are sick?
Yes, aviation, not aviation, avian flu. You know, there's egg shortages.
I didn't know birds could get the flu.
Didn't you?
No.
Yes, it's like swine flu.
Oh, what the fuck is that?
Oh, look, I'll have to tell you later. But Yumi's kindly sent me some merch.
What did they send you?
They sent me some earrings
Oh,
and a key ring in the shape of Yumi's hummus dip.
oh my God.
Can you believe it? It was the cutest thing I've ever got sent in my life.
We need to track down the lady. I'm confident it was a lady.
Me too.
That sent those to you.
Or a very fabulous man.
Yeah. Yes. Very.
Okay, so let's get into this episode knowing that there will be pauses throughout that you won't be privy to, but we will have mouthfuls of Yumi's dip.
Right, chapters 11 to 15 is where we're at in A Court of Frost and Starlight, the Christmas edition.
Yes.
Yeah, Christmas,
Christmas
special.
special.
Before we start, though, I just want to talk about the fact that Moore has fucked Lucien's dad. Does that make you wildly uncomfortable?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. And by proxy has fucked his mum too.
I was all ready to get into like moody, bitchy Tamlin, and here you are.
Can you imagine what Moore is thinking?
She'd be like, oh, this is awkward.
And not just in the past,
No.
like last month.
Yeah, very recently.
Oh, they had the night of their lives.
They really did.
So much so that Rhys and Feyre had to put up that shield so they couldn't hear them. And not once is Feyre like, oh, this is fucking weird. Like, it's my best friend and Lucien's dad, my other friend's dad.
I think because they don't make the connection till like much
No,
later.
they already have. They already have.
No, but they don't articulate the connection to everyone.
I wonder if this is just what happens when you don't die.
You just fuck everyone because you're like, no,
The waters are so muddied.
Yeah.
No one knows who's who in the zoo anymore.
It's quite royal family-esque, right?
It is, yeah.
It's, Targaryen
Keeping it in the
2.0.
family. Yes. Anyway, I am uncomfortable.
Roger.
And so is Rhys because he has gone to the spring court and he finds, instead of the imagery that we got from Feyre when she first arrived at the spring court, we get tangled thorn bushes, dry fountains. You know when fountains produce like that slimy, algae, mouldy sort of stuff on the inside? Like, can you imagine how that smells?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you?
Let's move on.
That hedges and shrubs untrimmed.
Yeah. It's giving Beauty and the Beast
It is.
with the spell on the manor.
Yes, he's more beast-like now than he's ever been.
Agreed.
Right?
And he's been abandoned by everyone.
Yes.
Not a sentry inside.
Correct. Now, from what we know, the courts are tied to their High Lord's power. Do we think that this is a sign that Tamlin's power is diminishing, perhaps because he didn't hold up his end of the bargain with the King of Highburn?
Ooh, interesting. I mean, quite feasible. I don't think it's going to be that easy.
True.
Yeah.
So the manor is in ruin, eerily quiet, massive claw marks down the front doors. Looks very similar to how it did the day that they went and trashed it when Amarantha was around. And so Rhys swaggers up and just like gently knocks on the door. Of course you wouldn't knock on that sort of door, would you? Big summer blowout.
Anyone home? Can I borrow a cup of sugar?
Tamlin is alone, no servants around, and he says, Lucien claimed you would come. What do you want? And Rhys is like, well, could I trouble you for a cup of tea?
Can you let me in, doll? It's been a long day. I'd like to rest my dogs. My dogs are barking.
No. Are we talking about testicles?
No, feet.
What?
My dogs are barking. Oh, God. Sorry to everyone who's listening in the United States. I know you get me well and proper. Dogs' feet. My dogs are barking as they take their shoes off and they're massaging their tootsies.
Putrid, but no.
Okay. Well, yes, good.
So Rhys decides that he would like to brag, and he does. He brags a bit about how Tamlin deserves this husk of a life and that he has had everything and he squandered it. And Rhys is confident that he will not make the same mistake that Tamlin did.
I totally agree with this sentiment.
Yeah, me too.
Tamlin fucked up big time.
Yeah.
And not once, has continued to fuck up. He couldn't help himself.
I think everything from the fiddling onwards is ruined.
Sorry, Roz.
That's right. So Rhys is actually there to inquire around why Tamlin's borders aren't being enforced. And so you will remember that the Spring Court is the only court that touches what was the wall to the human lands. And now that the wall is gone, there is opportunity for growth of the courts. And essentially Tamlin has to give, his line has to give for other lines to give, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and he's not enforcing that wall at all, or the border of his court anymore.
Yeah, he's like, take a look around, Rhys. Like, who the fuck's doing that?
Yes.
He's proper abandoned, which is fine, but he can't actually do it alone regardless. So, but he also doesn't want to accept help either.
Yes. He does, Rhys does offer to send the Illyrians to patrol his borders, and Tamlin calls his people brutes, which he's very offended by, which I can understand. So he deliberately gives him another little stab And he says, "You deserve everything that has befallen you. You deserve this pathetic empty house, your ravaged lands. I don't care if you offered that kernel of life to save me. I don't care if you still love my mate. I don't care that you saved her from Highburn or 1,000 enemies before that. I hope you live the rest of your miserable life here alone. It's a far more satisfying end than slaughtering you." Savage.
Savage. Like, it's so ruthless, but also it's like fucking true.
Yeah.
You've been a douche, Tam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tamlin sends him away. He's like, "Get out." And so Rhys does. He winnows back to the Night Court. And as he does, he realises that Tamlin doesn't actually have any wards around the manor at all, which we would probably just put down to that he's sad and uncaring. But I actually think it's another sign that he doesn't have power.
Yeah. I mean, you could be right. I don't know. I personally think he just cares fucking not about anything. So he's like, whatever, I'm not
maybe.
bothering, but you could be right.
So he finds Feyre. She's on the return to the townhouse after she's done some shopping. And he tells her everything that's happened at the manor. He's ashamed and thinks that he should have been the bigger person. But I'm like, no.
Absolutely not.
Anyway, so then Rhys flies to his, quote, favoured jeweller.
I love
Can you
this.
imagine being rich enough that you have a favoured jeweller?
I would absolutely love this. But also, I like to put myself in the jeweler's position in this moment. Can you imagine the joy you would see as Rhys walks through the door? You'd be like,
Today's the day.
don't have to work for another year, boys. Let's go to Bora Bora.
I cannot relate because much like Feyre, I do not appreciate gems, rubies, sapphires, that sort of thing. They're not my vibe for a gift.
Yeah.
So she does spread them out before him and he's like, no, none of those, thanks. And I was like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Because if you had brought Feyre gems and jewels, I would be disappointed because she would hate that as a gift.
She would.
So the jeweller herself isn't a wraith but something similar, wrapped in shadows and eyes like glowing coals. And most of his house heirlooms are made by this particular brand of lesser fey. Good on you.
I would just love to be wealthy enough to have a preferred jeweller. I think that would float my boat. Not that I care about jewels because I'm
what would you ever do with them?
I mean, I'm beastly careless about jewellery as well. But like the fact that you've reached that status is pretty sweet.
That's true. And it is this lady's happy day because he ends up buying all of them for Amren.
Amren is the easiest bitch to buy for.
Yes.
The true, hoarding birdie that likes the shiny things.
Yeah.
Just bring the shiny things.
She's a dragon. She loves her
definitely.
jewels.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're now in Feyre's point of view and she's milling about in the good room. I like to what's it called? I don't know what room it's called.
I mean, I'd call it the good room too.
The good room. Yeah, the good room. And Cassian comes in and basically dumps the contents of a pine tree at her feet, but like broken up into a million mini pieces.
Yeah.
And they have a little bit of banter because he's actually wearing normal clothes.
This is probably my favourite exchange in the whole book.
Okay.
Because
he's wearing grey sweatpants.
Yes.
That's what I picture him wearing. And a black T-shirt.
It's the equivalent of being in your comfies. Yeah. And an exceptionally hot person in their comfies is elite. It's better than a man in a tux.
Yes. And so it makes this next bit a bit uncomfortable, but he picks her up and spins her around until she wants to vomit.
Yeah.
Awful.
And she's like, he's slapping his chest, put me down. Like it's like brother and sister, but step brother and sister.
And that is not too far. As we have learned, nothing is too close to family.
It's keeping it in the family.
That's right. Okay, so they break out the good wine too, which I quite like.
Yeah.
And they finish 2 bottles before Azriel arrives.
Yeah.
And he's like, you tried to make it as ugly as possible. And that is how I feel about when my children decorate the Christmas tree. And then they go to bed that night and I remove everything and start again.
Yes, I must tell everyone that your tree is rather immaculate for someone with 2 small children.
They're not allowed near
They've
it.
not
That's
touched it
why.
at all. But Christmas is for the children, for the children.
The magic is for them. The tree is for me.
I do love this next bit as more arrives.
Yes.
And she's like, you couldn't fucking wait for me before you opened the good wine. Like, she's pissed. I love it.
So I love the bit when Rhys arrives and everyone's just drunk. And he's like,
Hello?
What?
Hello?
Amren also arrives in an enormous white fur coat, and Cassian says to her, "You look like an angry snowball."
His sense of humour is the best.
Yes, I quite like him.
Yeah.
So she informs him that Varian will be in attendance for the solstice celebration, which is so sweet. She's got a little boyfriend.
Yeah.
She's like this otherworldly great being that's found herself a dog.
A dog.
Okay, so Feyre walks into the kitchen. Oh, everyone's here.
Yeah.
Everyone minus Nesta.
Yeah.
And the slaves are helping Elaine with the evening meal. Our flower enthusiast with a knife is back. She's making bread.
Oh, bless her.
So Elaine, she tells her that Nesta didn't say yay or nay to whether she was coming tonight, so no one's really sure. But if
The answer is, of course, no.
nay. nay.
If I'm not RSVPing, the answer is no.
It's no.
By default.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
No RSVP means RSVP no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Elaine is unusually cold when she talks about Nesta. So there's obviously been a little altercation in which her feelings have been hurt, and I don't give a shit.
You really? So even though Nesta's being, see you next Tuesday, you're still like, nah, Elaine, sorry, you fucking bitch.
Yeah.
Make your bread and
Shush. Yes. I mean, I'm sure the bread's good, but anyway.
Oh, yes.
So Nesta basically says to them, you have your lives and I have mine. And she's not wrong if that's what she wants to do. She was given a second chance at life and she wants to be sad. A lot of people take that route.
I did think this too about Nesta. I was like, she didn't sign up for any of this. Families are estranged from one another all the time.
But also, what are you complaining about, Nesta?
The thing that she doesn't have a leg to stand on is that her lifestyle is facilitated by the people that she doesn't want to associate with. And you can't do that.
Yeah.
That's called not going to job seeker interviews when you should be.
Yes. Yeah.
And she essentially has done what most people do and tried to live as far away from a Centrelink office as possible to not actually have to go on job seeker interviews.
Yes. Well, she's been offered. Rhys has offered.
She has.
And she has declined.
She has politely
Centrelink
declined.
has said no.
Yes, she should therefore default on her dole.
Yeah, so dole payment.
Yes.
Yeah. So Feyre asks Elaine if she's okay, and Elaine plasters on a fake smile and says, "Why wouldn't I be all right?" Poor acting, Elaine, but thank you. Everybody files into the dining room now to have dinner, and Azriel comes last. Yeah, he does.
I will be with him. Having a gay old time.
I'm trying to make a very important point here.
Yeah, no, sorry. You've lost me and Azriel comes.
So Feyre describes feeling more than seeing Elaine freeze. And Cassian's like, are you going to hold that chicken all night? She's obviously holding a burning bakery dish full of chicken. And she snaps herself out of it, puts the chicken on the table and sweetly says to Cassian, "I spat in it." And that gives me a visceral reaction because I hate spitting.
So do I.
We talked about this previously about hating spitting.
Yeah.
It's not for me. Never joke about it. Thank you. Cassian is of the opposite opinion though, because he's like, well, it makes it more delicious. And that makes me sick.
That actually makes me gag a little in my mouth.
Yeah. Now, that wasn't the point that I was trying to make.
No, clearly
However, there's another incident. So what happens next is Azriel says nothing as he takes a hot potato dish from Elaine's hands and puts it on the table, right? And Cassian tries to start the meal, but Azriel tells him to wait until everybody is seated. Rhys and Feyre have a mind-to-mind conversation about this awkward interaction because Azriel, we've never heard him request that everybody is seated before they start dinner. It's a bit religious for me. It's an odd exchange is what I'll call it.
Yes.
And Rhys says that there are some scars for Azriel about how his mother was treated. There's obviously something going on there. However, theory time.
Okay.
The potato exchange is what it's been dubbed as. And there's a lot of people out there who are convinced that the potato scene is actually the mating bond clicking into place for Azriel and Elaine. And let me describe what I know. So, firstly, the allusion to the steam swirling like Azriel's shadows around Elaine. Do you remember they talk about the steaming potatoes and how they look like Azriel's shadows?
Yeah.
That's the symbolism of her being shrouded in his essence, and you're going to think that's dirty, and so do I.
He can shroud me in his essence.
I don't like the word essence.
Oh, I'm there for it if it's Azriel's. It's fine.
No, it's like the M word. It's not for me. I don't like
What's
essence.
the M word? Oh.
Moist. Yeah, it's
Look,
not for me.
Azriel's essence would get me moist. As you were.
So I'm uncomfortable.
I know. I do.
Look, I'm actually not. I would be
You'd happily
outside
watch.
of your room. Yes.
You'd happily watch. Don't lie.
I shall support you.
You wouldn't be outside the room. You'd be like, you'd be
putting on my monocle. The thing is, I could come in without my glasses and I wouldn't see you.
You could
So
come
it's
in
like
and
I'd be
I
there.
wouldn't notice.
I would be there, but I wouldn't see anything good.
I'd be far too busy to notice if you were there.
Very true, very true. Right.
Anyway, back to normalcy, some sort of normalcy.
Elaine freezes and freezes when Azriel comes into the room, right?
Yep.
Which is a very un-Elaine thing to do. Moore notices something that Feyre doesn't, and with this exchange which makes her tense as per the writing.
Yes.
Azriel taking the potatoes from her, not letting her serve him, because you will remember that with the mating bond, it is a female that serves
Serving
the male. And so I think that what he's doing is taking that away so that she doesn't serve it to him, so that the mating bond doesn't click into place. Because if you will remember, when it comes to the mating bond with Lucien, it was just him saying it.
Yeah,
there was no
actual...
description as to how he felt at the time or why he felt like she was his mate or anything along those lines.
Yeah.
And there was never any word or description from Elaine at all about it.
Yeah.
So we don't actually know what that looked like. And is Lucien just wrong? Is he mistaken? So Elaine gets flustered for the first time. We've rarely ever seen her flustered before about her appearance, and she totters off to go and make herself presentable to get back to the table. And then Azriel getting pissy with Cassian about not waiting for Elaine out of respect for the fact that she'd made some of this meal. So that's the potato exchange theory.
I have a big problem. Namely, that I don't like to talk about Azriel, right? Because
It's not you.
it's not me.
Yeah.
But it is me. And I'm a bit flustered because it sounds perfectly feasible that Elaine and Azriel are mates, and I don't want that to be true.
Yeah.
I am quite happy living in the land where Lucien and Elaine are mated because Lucien will somewhat... Because Lucien said so, yes. But also because Elaine is such a bleh for me, like a nothing. And I understand that you want to, redeem her character somewhat.
Oh, no, I don't.
Not you, but Sarah wants to redeem Elaine somewhat. And yes, we've established that being a dirty, dirty whore would in fact do that.
Yes.
But I don't like her.
So you just don't like this because you don't like Elaine? You could have just said that. I agree with you. I don't like Elaine. I would murder her for you so that Azriel has a chance to find a new mate, and it could be you. I'll just
This
murder the
is
next one if it's
why-
not you again as well.
This is why we are best friends.
Yes, I'd do that.
Ride or die
Right.
for Azriel for me.
Fair.
Yeah.
Now, Amren likes to talk about her unpleasant results of eating. And if you will remember, Amren is now high fae, and which means she eats normal food
Yes.
instead of drinking blood like the fallen angel that she was.
Yes.
So she says, she's grumbling about the plate that's in front of her. She can only eat small portions still. And she says, and then there are some other unpleasant results of eating. And Elaine's like, what sort of results? And Rhys interrupts and is like, oh, don't answer that. But shit, Elaine. She's talking about shit.
It's the toilet. Are you...
She is dumber than a bag full of hammers, honestly.
Sorry, even Azriel, if he was mated to her, he'd be like, oh my fucking God, like,
Wouldn't
can you
he?
stop talking?
She's a lunatic.
Yeah.
They have a little laugh, and it's in fact we that they're talking about, but that wasn't my first thought.
No, poo. It's always poo.
Yes. Amren and Elaine have an exchange where Elaine asks her if she could have changed forms if she wanted to. And Amren says to her, are you asking out of curiosity for my past or for your own future?
Yes, this was worrying. Not because I don't care about Elaine.
Yes.
Clearly we've established that. But I did wonder if Amren knows something about the sisters in entirety that she hasn't actually just fucking told them.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't you by now? She's got nothing to keep for any reason, right? She's, for all intents and purposes, she's a human with zero power, Amren.
Yeah.
And if she knew something, why hasn't she fucking said it by now?
Yeah.
It will annoy me.
So dinner is done and Rhys and Feyre decide to go and bang on Nesta's door. Now's a good time. Again, it's this like after dinner thing. They go places and do things. It's not for me. I'd be in bed.
So would I. So they take a trip to the scummiest of the scummiest.
It's Mobius of Valaris.
It is the Mobius of Valaris. And what I find puzzling about this is that Nesta could drink anywhere because she's not paying for drinks.
Yes.
So if that was me, I'd be at the swankiest rooftop
You'd be
bar.
at Rita's.
I would be at Rita's and I would be having spicy margs all night. But what is interesting is that she does still manage to locate quite eligible bachelors in these scummy Mobius-like places.
Yep.
I'm sure some of you might be able to relate. Rhys decides that he's going to remain outside, and I think that he disguises this decision as he's actually scared of Nesta. But
So he's like, no, you go in so it doesn't look like the High Lord is ordering her.
Yeah, we're not ambushing her, but really he's like, I don't want to fucking go in
I
there.
don't want to go in there. He actually says to Feyre, if someone propositions you, tell them we'll both be free in an hour.
I'm sorry, but if that's not the hottest thing you've ever heard, Rhys is the MVP for me for that.
They allude a fair bit to some threesome action, don't they?
Absolutely.
Over the time.
Yeah.
And apart from that removed chapter, we never know.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So Feyre enters Mobius and she describes that, things kind of stop.
Seedy.
Stop. And she's there and she has the attention of most people because they either recognise her or they feel a power presence because she's the High Lady.
Yeah.
So she kind of saunters over to where Nesta's playing cards or something. And there's 3 good-looking high-fae men. And Nesta's posture could not be more fucking bored. She's clearly having what she would describe as a boring night, but she's going to take one of them home and fuck them regardless.
Yeah, I feel like they could have saved a lot of time if she just said that.
Yeah.
And was like, right, choose amongst yourselves, draw the shortest straw.
Yeah. So the men excuse themselves after they kind of recognise Feyre as the High Lady and she's like, I'd like a word with my sister. And,
Yeah.
And Nesta's like, okay. So Feyre sits down and they look at each other and they have this exchange about whether or not Nesta's going to show up for Christmas dinner.
Yes.
Solstice.
Yeah.
And she's like, are you asking or is this for Elaine? And Feyre says rightly, well, both of us. You can tell that still to this day that Nesta will still do more for Elaine than Feyre,
Yeah.
which shits me because Nesta and Elaine are currently like not for each other.
Yeah. I was reading something the other day about Nesta's personality, and I see it now that we've started our research for the next book, that a lot of people say that they hate Nesta to begin with. And someone else had raised an idea that you as a reader hate Nesta because she hates herself. And so you're like, why are you doing this? Why are you making these decisions? Why are you pushing everyone away? Why are you doing these things?
Yep.
And the answer is that she hates herself just as much as someone from the outside hates her, and she doesn't know why she's doing these things. She's out of control.
She needs some bloody sertraline or something.
She needs some ketamine.
Yeah, that might help.
Right, so Nesta wants money for rent.
Yeah, she's like, my rent's due next week, by the way, as Feyre's like, see you at solstice.
Yeah.
And Feyre's like,
The audacity.
yeah. But
The audacity.
rightly, she's like, come to solstice and I'll pay your rent, bitch.
Yeah, that's a snarky thing for Feyre to do. Like, that's probably the most snarky thing she's ever done, to be like, to manipulate Nesta into saying, well, I'll pay for your rent as long as you come to solstice, because it means something to both Elaine and I.
Yes.
But more so, I think she's done it for Elaine.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So we get into Rhys's point of view next, and him and Moore are walking along the river together. He's invited her for a walk when she appeared in the townhouse after lunch. There's still some tension between them. If you'll remember, like when Rhys agreed to work with Eris and the Hewn City and them coming to Valaris and all that sort of stuff, and they've never really, apart from the conversation they had initially, there's never been any further follow-up about that sort of thing.
Never hashed it out about this.
Yeah.
And this is the first time they bring it up.
And Moore asks Rhys if Keir will be coming to Valaris soon to fulfill their half of the bargain for the Darkbringers for the war. And Rhys confirms that he is, and he has little choice but to uphold the bargain because Keir already upheld his end of the bargain.
Yes.
So, that only seems fair. He offers to send her away, though, while he's here, but she knows that it'll look like she's disappeared while he's there, and she doesn't want to give him the satisfaction of that. So she's like, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And Moore moves the conversation along, and she asks Rhys what he's brought for Feyre. He says she's impossible to shop for. And I was like, yeah. And he actually asks Moore for an idea, and she's like, you're her mate. Like, you can literally see into her brain.
The weirdest thing about this exchange is that Rhys admits how poorly Moore buys for everybody.
Yes.
That he has a entire cupboard full of cufflinks that are gaudier than the next one, and that he's lucky because I think she's bought Cassian ruffled shirts. And I'm like, why are you asking Moore what she wants? Like what Feyre
She would
wants?
be no good. No good at all.
No.
Maybe she'll be better with female presence than males.
Maybe.
Do you know what I mean?
That remains to be seen.
Yeah. Feyre and Elaine are now shopping, and Feyre has not brought a gift yet for Rhys. They're in a weaver's shop, which I actually did find interesting. So it turns out that the weaver is a type of lesser fae.
Oh.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Okay. Right. So the weaver of the wood is just one of a weaver.
Yes. Yeah.
Please tell me the weaver that they're buying from now is not the, shadowy.
No. Well, remember the weaver of the wood would eat people and like use their hair and their skin and stuff. And so she had sucked the beauty from other people with a mirror, and that's why she was so ugly because it had all drained from her.
Okay.
No, so I found that interesting because the weaver is obviously a type of lesser fae, which again is just interesting because the siblings, you wouldn't think any of them would be a lesser fae, would you?
No.
Yeah. So anyway, she is from a type of lesser fae.
Yeah, interesting.
Elaine, she essentially convinces Feyre that she should celebrate solstice because Feyre doesn't want to celebrate solstice because she thinks it's wasteful and there are people still without homes and, blah, 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 and why are they buying gifts for each other. But Elaine convinces her that it means something to her people and therefore it should mean something to her, is the short version.
It's probably, I agree too, and it's probably the most clever thing Elaine has ever thought.
Yes. She's got a lot more clarity after the war, which, good and bad, and bad. Feyre notices a black tapestry, so black that it absorbs the light and has an iridescent thread. The boring version of the weaver turns around to them and Feyre asks what the black tapestry is made from. And she says she calls it void, and it's a fabric that she created to see how darkness might be made. And she confesses that she started making it after her husband had died in the war. She tells them that the silver thread is called hope and she created it after she mastered void. And I'm sorry, but I'm so bored because this is just a really obvious reference to Feyre mastering her darkness or her void and becoming hopeful, which is what this book is essentially all about. I think she's been super obvious here with this and I'm not for it. I love an Easter egg and this is not an Easter egg.
The entire time you were talking, I think I fell into a void.
I agree.
Thank you for a beautiful shift.
That's it for this episode of the Night Shift Court podcast.
Join us next week for the continuation of ACOFAS Book 4, A Court of Frost and Starlight.
Whichever platform you're listening on, we would so appreciate it if you could give us a 5-star review. It helps our podcast grow.
You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok at The Night Shift Court.